Good evening and welcome. Yes, thanks to all of you who have signed up for this topic. It seems to be one of interest. I'm sure anyone who is living in a human body, which we all are, is on some level, whether they're conscious of it or not, deeply interested in being as healthy as possible. Of course, it makes our human experience that much more pleasant. And from what I can tell, we're all here to express something unique in the world. And the healthier that our body is, the more energy that we have to really show up in our lives and to give what it is that we have to give. And yet, when we do have physical symptoms, many things might occur for all of us. One being, we think that the body is doing something wrong, or that we've done something wrong. Or we go to an expert to find out what's wrong with us and get a diagnosis and perhaps take medications or supplements or herbs, or we change our diet. And all of these things are great, and they can be super, super helpful. But what I really wanted to dive into this evening with you is this understanding that the physical body is traveling in tandem with our soul in this lifetime. And our soul, by soul, I simply mean that part of us that is from the spiritual realm, that is the impetus that brought us here in the first place, to have a certain experience, to learn, to give in certain ways, to discover our gifts and our abilities. And oftentimes when we are suffering from physical symptoms, we've somehow been conditioned to separate it from the spiritual, or to leave the soul or the inner guidance system out of the picture. We tend to give our authority very often over to the health experts, be they doctors or naturopaths or holistic healers. So one of the things that I discovered through my own health issues and my own deep interest in human healing for myself, but also, I believe, a calling to explore it here in my lifetime and to share it with others. What I intuitively felt was that there was this intelligence inside of me that would guide me to the steps that I needed to take, the changes that I needed to make, as well as eventually I became very aware that it would also guide me to the feelings and the emotions that might be actually limiting my capacity to heal. So the understanding, and I'm almost positive that all of you, of course, know this, is that essentially everything that we are experiencing in the physical realm, but also in the kind of the etheric and the sensory realm, is essentially energy. And so relating to our physical body, even though my hand looks dense, if I went into it with a high-powered microscope, eventually I would just come to yawning chasms of just vast open space. So all of the holistic approaches to health acknowledge that essentially the body is made of energy. And when the energy is flowing freely, there is health. The life force is traveling to the various cells, to the various tissues, and nourishing it with the deepest impulse to heal, which is what life does. Life is all about self-regulating, self-repairing. And yet somehow in us, we have lost touch with one, the understanding that there's so much help available to us from the energetic realms. And two, we have been conditioned to believe that the body is doing something wrong when we get symptoms, when in fact, what the body is attempting to do is, through the symptom, is to realign us with what it is, who it is that we are, and what it is that we're here to experience and to express in this lifetime. And so what I'd like to do this evening is to speak about this and to give you an experience through a guided meditation of learning how to connect towards that, what I'm calling soul, that inner guide, that inner teacher, that inner healer, specifically related to a symptom that you are experiencing right now. So do your very best to allow yourself to land here and to listen to me and to the group field here with your ears, but also with your whole body. So one of the keys to beginning to listen more deeply and receive the messages and the gifts of the soul is really inhabiting the body. This might seem counterintuitive because we think, oh, the soul is spiritual, I have to leave the body. But actually the soul speaks through the body, and its language comes to us through sensory experience in the body. So I encourage all of us to just settle where we are. If you can at all, just be still and sit for this time that we're spending together, and close the door so that you're undisturbed. Then you'll be able to receive the information that's coming not just to your ears, but that is being expressed energetically as well. And you'll be able to give your attention to your body, the experiences and the insights that might come through your own being this evening. So I encourage you to allow yourselves to settle into a comfortable position and to just feel the physicality of the body landing in your seat. So feel the weight of your body. So often when we begin to feel discomfort in the body, there's a tendency to leave the body, whereas what's actually needed is a befriending of the body, a deeper intimacy with the body, dropping in the question, how can I help? What am I here to learn from this? So in order to do that, we settle into the body and just feel what it feels like to be in your body right now. So just go for the obvious. You can feel your bum in your seat. You can feel your breath moving through your body, opening and closing, opening and closing, expanding, contracting. And you feel the sensations related to that. And so I invite us all to bring our attention to that. And sometimes we might think that we might miss some important information if we're putting our attention in our body. But actually, your whole being is listening to me right now, not just your ears. And so we're attuning to that capacity. And it's a very important skill to redevelop. And I say redevelop because we had it as children, because that is how we tap into the voice and the communications of the soul and the wonderful and helpful and specific guidance that is pouring forth at every moment. So just be in your body however it's feeling right now. So maybe some of you are tired, or you have achiness, or you feel comfortably full, or you're having some bloating from your dinner. So all kinds of sensations might show up when we drop into the body. And what would it be to give equal curiosity and openness and kindness to the whole gamut of sensations that are showing up here. And as we drop into our body, we might also begin to feel certain emotions or places where we hold stress. And this too is really important to open to, because it's going to be a key to really cleaning the windows of the soul so that we can hear the messages that are coming from within us. So as I mentioned, we are essentially made of energy. And this energy has condensed itself into physical form. So the plant behind me has done the same, and the painting and your computer in front of you. Everything solid that you see is essentially energy that has condensed into physical form that we can feel and touch and see and smell and taste. But the physical is essentially energy. If you look at it closely enough, there's really nothing there. As the quantum physicists tell us, it's 99.99999% empty space. And in the holistic world, if you look back to the beginning of time, the teachings around healing from some of the ancient traditions all the way up to today, essentially, health is a free flowing of energy. Just as a pond would be healthy if there's free-flowing energy in and out of that pond, and if you were to stop that free-flowing water in and out, the pond would become a cesspool. And so our body is constantly circulating energy through our meridians, through our chakras, through the central column, and it's nourishing all of the tissues in our body. Now, disease happens when energy gets jammed up, when it gets blocked in the system, and it can get blocked in many different places for various reasons, but I'm going to be talking about the primary reason. And when I was advertising this talk, I spoke about the root cause of most diseases, the vast majority of diseases, and that is emotional energy. So when we were little, we had all kinds of experiences. And as human beings, we're equipped with a nervous system, which is also made of energy, that is meant to help us to digest any kind of physical and energetic and feeling responses to situations. And as children, some of these situations were too intense for us. And also the adults that were around us did not have the capacity to hold the space for us to allow these energies to flow through. Maybe because they were going through their own intense experiences. And again, and if you look back, to the generations, many of us, in fact, probably the vast majority of us, have not really learned to give presence to feelings. And so as a child, when you were feeling angry or sad or anxious, if your parent or whoever is taking care of you is not comfortable with anger or sadness or anxiety, then it's likely that they're going to try to distract you from it. They themselves will become less present because your sadness will exacerbate their sadness. And this is how we get into all of the behaviors that we do to avoid how we're feeling. It's not wrong that we do that. It's actually a form of intelligence, right? To really kind of sustain us and to help us to relax as best we can into the world. So as a child, if sadness wasn't okay in my tribe, then what I would do is I would sort of, when it would come up, and of course it naturally comes up, there's all kinds of things that make us sad and there's all kinds of things that make us happy. But if it wasn't an allowed thing in our tribe, then what happens is that I begin to learn that, and I use my life force to kind of tuck it away underneath the surface. And so it moves out of the consciousness. And I might also begin to develop patterns that add an extra layer on top of it. So maybe if sadness was suppressed here, maybe I become the joker, I become the pleaser, in order to sort of put that extra layer of protection and hiding on top of this particular feeling, top of sadness. But the energy that I'm using to suppress sadness literally locks that energy in there. And of course, is going to create tension, not only in the body, but also in the energy body as well, and in the nervous system. There's a lot of your energy that's going to be tied up in protecting and guarding this particular energy. And of course, there's not just one. Most of us are guarding a lot of different energies in our system, and it's using a lot of our life force. So that's one thing. It's one of the reasons why so many of us feel tired or depleted, because so much of our life force is spent suppressing, guarding, protecting ourselves from feeling certain things. And this is not to blame at all. Again, we learned this. It's been learned through the generations. And at some point, it was a form of intelligence. But what happens when these energies are suppressed, let's say, for example, it is sadness and it's being suppressed in my heart area. That means that the life force flowing through the heart area, including the lungs and the breasts and the thymus, which is the main gland of your immune system, are not going to be receiving the amount of life force that's necessary for them to function in such a way that gives you access to the most potent and high level of health possible. And so we can take all kinds of medication and supplements and whatnot to help us to try to heal whatever issue is arising. But in my experience, the healing is only complete when we allow ourselves to also feel the emotions that didn't get a chance to unwind themselves 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. The deep healing comes when we can not only approach healing from the level of the physical, but also open to what it is that was suppressed here, what it is that is wanting to liberate itself, and that is telling us it wants to liberate itself through this very symptom. So the symptom isn't a problem. The symptom is actually a guide. So what I would like you to do is to just settle into your body. And even as you're listening, and you can close your eyes if you want, is just turn your attention inwards. Maybe take a few deep breaths in and out. And just feel that breath moving through. Feel a trail of sensations that the movement of breath leaves in your system. And then I would like you to think about just one symptom that has been concerning you lately. Just one, just drop the thought of that symptom into your system. Maybe it's active right now. Maybe you remember a recent time when it was perhaps worse than usual. Or you think about the practitioners that are helping you with it right now. So all you need to do is think about the symptom, and then thoughts about it will come all on their own. And allow those thoughts to come. You may remember when the symptom first showed up. And then just notice where you feel guided to in your body. So as I think about this symptom, where do I feel drawn to in my body? So perhaps you're drawn to the actual area where you feel the sensations related to the symptom. Or maybe your symptom is more of a generalized thing. And so you're being drawn to just one particular territory in your body for no particular reason, but we want to trust the intelligence of this process. So we just think about the symptom, and then we allow ourselves to just feel where there is a heightened sensation in the body. And you can't get this wrong. So just go to wherever you feel most inclined to go and include that in your attention. So you may feel tension somewhere in your body. Maybe a density, a kind of a holding. And just open to that. You may find that what seems to get activated in the body isn't related or doesn't seem to be related to the symptom, but you want to trust this intelligence that brings forward this particular energy, because it just may be an answer to your prayers for healing. So you want to let go of everything you think you know about this symptom. Let go of the stories that you tell about everything that you've done to try to heal it, about all the people in your family who have similar symptoms, around what the doctor told you about what you can and can't heal. Just let all of those be. Don't use any energy to push them away. But if they come in, just let them float by like clouds. For now, we're going to consult with a different part of our being. So most of us give most of our attention to the opinions of the mind. And while that's fine, we need to remember that our Creator has given us so many other ways of knowing. And that's what we're doing right now, is we're checking in with those other ways of knowing. And I understand the mind is strong and it's going to want to pull you back because it's used to having a lot of the attention. Just be gentle and kind with yourself and come back into the body and just notice, what am I most aware of here? Where do I feel tension? Where do I feel contraction? And see if you can open to that feeling, to that discomfort, with a willingness to let go of calling something wrong just because it's uncomfortable. Discomfort has just as much to tell us as comfort does, has just as much intelligence as comfort does, is just as sacred as comfort is. So when we drop into the body, if we have an aversion to discomfort, and of course, as human beings, we would prefer comfort, but when the reality is that discomfort is here, if we have an aversion to discomfort, we drop into the body, we feel the discomfort, we go back up into our heads. So what we're going to practice here is coming back again and again to the body. It's the beginning of rekindling a friendship with this vessel that we have been traveling in for our whole lives, and that wants to help us, that wants to create an environment that feels pleasant and energized. But in order to allow it to express its intelligence, we need to listen. We need to let go of some of the conditioned beliefs and thoughts that we might have around what the body is capable of and everything else that we might all the other stories we might tell about our health, our body, our symptoms. So here we are, we're dropping into the body. We're feeling where that sensation is strongest. And we're opening to it. Even you could say hello to it. There's kind of a friendly attitude that we want to start cultivating. And what's beautiful about so many of us doing this here together is that the friendly attitude and that sense of presence is felt, even though we're all in different places. And so take advantage of this time and of this shared field and of these like-minded souls who also want to create radiant health. And just feel the support of the group as you open to this area of discomfort in your body in a new way. Good. Now, it's very likely as you drop into that tension or discomfort that it begins to open up a little bit. It begins to maybe soften. Maybe you begin to feel certain kind of tingling or warmth. Maybe you feel it contract more. So there's nothing that could be wrong about the experience that you're currently having. I'm just describing some of the things that you might notice. And you also may find that the sensation, and you really just sit quietly with it, starts pulling you in a little bit deeper, and you might begin to feel subtler and subtler sensations. And those subtler and subtler sensations will begin to cross over into the realm of emotions. So emotions are sensations too, but generally we don't relate them to the physical body. But they're these subtler energies that are felt in the body. And so notice if, as you drop into the body and you think about this symptom, if there are any emotions or feelings that begin to stir up for you. And just open to that too. So this is another way of knowing that our Creator has given us our feelings. And from my experience, through my own experience, but also with helping lots of people, we don't have a very wide bandwidth for our emotional experience. And a big part of connecting to the voice of the soul and to our intuition is slowly but surely increasing that capacity for presence for all of our emotional states. And so just notice here if sadness is arising, anxiety, fear, joy, whatever it is, and see if you can open to that too. So we're just leaning back as the observers of what energies, what experiences are arising in response to the guidance here. And we're just trusting this process as much as we can. And as we continue to allow this emotional unwinding to occur, just stay with the comforting rhythm of your breath, in and out, gently brushing up against the edges of this energy or emotion or sensation that's been activated. Like a hand on a cheek, just very gently, very nurturing. And so the breath is brushing by these areas. That's good. That's one of the things that happens when we suppress feelings. We tend to avoid the area even with our breath. That's why so many of us breathe very shallow, because subconsciously we're trying to avoid disturbing any of those pockets of emotions that we've tucked away. And so here we can use the breath as an ally, as this gentle reminder of this wave of life that comes, that goes. The inhale is a yes to this moment. The exhale is a letting go of the last moment. And this breath has been our companion our whole lifetime. And here it is here, soothing us, nurturing these energies that have bravely shown up this evening. And while the breath is rising and falling, also just allow the body on the exhale to drop into the deep holding of the earth. Who is wanting to contribute to your healing in every possible way. And there's this invitation to let ourselves be held while this natural process of healing occurs as we relax into the earth, as we relax into this moment as it is. There is an opening to greater energy flow, to greater surrender. So exhale, I drop into the deep holding of the earth. Inhale, I allow my body to expand in all directions, front, back, up, down. And I'm sensing through the edges of my body the vast space around me, which holds all possibilities for all of life, including deep healing and radiant health. Exhaling, I drop into the deep holding and the nourishment of the earth. Inhaling, I expand into the mystery and the intelligence and the radiance of life. And what is occurring here within my inner experience is all part of that mystery. Is all part of life moving through. Sometimes it feels good, sometimes it doesn't. But as long as the mind doesn't come in with its evaluation, it's just life moving through. Just like dark clouds need to move in sometimes to give us precious rain. Sometimes the energies that arise are here to clear, to give us access to more of ourselves, to liberate us from the burden of these energies that no longer serve us, and to free up the life force. So as you drop into a symptom in this way, with a willingness to listen to the different levels of your being that present themselves, the breath, the physical sensations, the emotional sensations, the energetic sensations, If you know about chakras, maybe you're finding that one or more of your energy centers are activated right now. So you can just lean back and watch this dance of energy, of this dance of sensation happening for you. It's happening for you. And there's so much less that we need to do than we believe. So much less. Healing is a natural impulse of life. Self-healing is a natural impulse of life. It's happening all the time. And we just get in our own way with our conditioning. And again, that's not to blame ourselves, but it's just to open us to this deeper and broader listening that's available to us. And as you practice this dive into the body and the symptoms, right? Which I understand can be kind of counterintuitive because we've spent a lot of energy kind of trying to get away from it. But when we willingly dive in with sincerity, we allow ourselves to sit in the body. What we might find is that we start getting insights or understanding or memories or guidance. So as the emotional energy begins to clear around this particular symptom, it's like the clouds begin to part and the light of the soul, which is our intuitive voice, begins to come through. Now, if that's not happening right now, that's totally fine. You haven't done anything wrong. But if you practice this, you'll find that sometimes guidance will in fact come to you directly in the midst of this kind of inner journey. Other times it might come to you later. So you might be going for a walk in the forest and something drops in. Oh, I really need to call this practitioner. Or you all of a sudden feel inspired to start juicing again, right? So where there was no motivation and no seeming energy to do what you think you know you need to do to heal, that too is caused by the suppression of emotions, because the greatest amount of our energy is used up in this, as I mentioned earlier. And so as we begin to really open to our emotional being, starting with the ones that are directly related to the symptom that we are having right now, as that begins to clear, we'll have more and more access to energy and also the inspiration, because inspiration means to be inspired or to be informed by spirit. And oftentimes that can't be felt because there's just too much laying on top of it. And so by allowing ourselves, one, to open to the possibility that our body is our ally, it's our friend, that our body wants to heal, that life wants us to experience radiant well-being. But two, also the willingness to begin to feel all emotions as not something that's in the way, but that is the way, that every emotion that shows up is sacred. So even, let's say you got a diagnosis and there's fear. Fear comes up and you might think, well, I have to get rid of this fear in order to do what I need to do. And actually, I would say that by trying to get rid of fear, you're using precious life force to do something that really you don't need to do. Every emotion, if you think about the word emotion, wants to be in motion. So the less we judge it and evaluate it, the more it just has the freedom to show up, to move in its own time, in its own way, and to release the energy in the tissues so that more life force can come in, more blood flow can come in, more oxygen can come in, more nutrients can come in. Also, as those blocked energies get released, toxins also get released. So let's say, for example, I am holding a lot of energy in my heart area. What that means is that the kind of the contraction compacts everything. And so the capacity of the system to get blood and nutrients and oxygen to the cells is diminished, but also the capacity of those tissues to release any toxins that might be involved in the symptom is also diminished. So as I feel emotions, as I allow energy to flow, everything becomes more spacious, and the capacity for good things to come in and things that don't serve me anymore to come out is enhanced. So healing the body the soul's way is about discovering the healing that is already and always wanting to happen through you. And next week, I'm going to be teaching a 4-week course, which you are most warmly invited to join us for. And in this course, we are going to progressively dive more deeply into some of the things that I've spoken about this evening. So we'll lay the foundation with meditations and encouragement to open to your whole being. I will encourage you also to really show up as I have tonight with your whole being and to dedicate the 4 weeks to whatever symptom that is kind of on your front burner right now that you are maybe perplexed by, because I know that happened for me at times. It felt like I was doing everything right, and yet somehow the symptom persisted. And from my perspective, I was often doing a lot on the physical plane, juicing and exercising and taking herbs and supplements and whatnot. And even I was doing quite a bit on the spiritual plane as well. I'd meditate. But at the beginning of my journey, I was not someone who was very adept, let's put it that way, at feeling deeply and fully. There was a lot of conditioning here around hiding those. And so for me, a big part of what eventually led me to deeper and deeper healing, and also better and better guidance, or maybe not better guidance, but more specific guidance, right? Because when we have a symptom, we can look on the internet and you're going to have hundreds of different opinions from hundreds of different experts, and it gets all very confusing. So the beauty of tapping into the soul in this way is that you get specific guidance for yourself, so that you know which ones are going to be most important for your being at this time in your life. So I love that part of it, because it removes some of that overwhelm that we can have when we're talking to so many experts. So we'll lay the foundation with meditation. We will speak more about the emotional being and how to develop a really kind and open and friendly relationship with it, and begin to understand that our emotions are actually the healing force. And so we're going to, together as a group, and again, this is the benefit of doing this in a large group, we will open the field of presence to welcome forward week after week, whatever moves forward for us. So that's the other thing about doing it in a 4-week process, is that between classes, our system can go through whatever process it is as it's integrating the material and doing the practices, which will then make way for the next layer of energy to show up, and the next layer of healing to happen. And then we can bring that to the next class, and then the next class, and then the next class. We'll be talking about relationships, not just relationships with other people, but actually primarily relationship with your body, with your symptom, with food, with the various practices, with your emotions, and how important it is to to honor the relationships that are in our life right now as deeply as possible, because they're here to show us the way. And in the last week, we will speak about how to continue this journey of listening to the soul when it comes to not only healing the body, but all aspects of our lives. And each class, we will be joining in a guided meditation together, because I really want us to have an experience here. So this isn't just about information for your mind. It's about coming to the classes fully present so that we can journey together. There will also be a bonus week, or bonus class rather, which will be on the Sunday following our last class. And you're welcome to join us for that, or you'd also get a recording. And that's going to be a restorative yoga and meditation class, which is something that we can all do. And it will be about integrating the information more deeply into our bodies. Let me see if there's anything else I want to add here. Maybe I'll speak a little bit from my experience. Some of you may have heard this before if you've been in the Soul Coach training, but and I think this was sort of the beginning of what it is that I'm passionate about sharing at this time. I really am in love with both the physical realm and the spiritual realm, and really curious about how they intertwine in such a way that is harmonious. I do believe that knowing ourselves as spirit and expressing in that way and living from that way, for me, is a real longing in this lifetime. And that's what keeps me just moving forward in the way that I do. And at the same time, I've always been very deeply interested in physical health. And so I'm curious about how they fit together. And I do believe that we're meant to have a beautiful experience here with the physical realm, a beautiful relationship with physicality. We're here to enjoy being in physical bodies, and I believe it's possible for all of us. And so it's a large part of what I look at within myself, but also want to share with other people and want to guide people to. And for me, it began, it probably began a long time ago, but I really had kind of a deep experience with it when I was diagnosed about probably close to 20 years ago with abnormal cells on my cervix. And at the time, it really scared me, of course. And I also felt confused because I was really working hard at being healthy. I was doing water fasts and juice fasts and yoga and different types of movement and, vegan diet and no alcohol and no coffee, everything so-called right. And yet here was this diagnosis. And at the time I knew enough in the midst of the fear. Actually, one of the interesting things that happened was that when the doctor called me to tell me about what they had found, it was weird. Like my mind freaked out a little bit. My heart opened. It was just the strangest thing. Just my whole heart just went opened right up. And I knew that was something telling me that there was so much that was going to come from this experience that I was having, that there was so much to learn about myself and also so much to learn about my vocation, which is to help others with their spiritual connection and their physical health. And so that's how I approached it. And of course, it was just like any of us. When we first get a diagnosis, we're going to start, researching. We're going to go to our doctor, and there's nothing wrong with any of these things. But I knew there was more. And although I was in the allopathic medical kind of system for a little while with it, I also knew that I needed to sit with it. And so that's what I did. At the time I was already meditating fairly regularly, but I would just sit when I had the time, and I would put my attention on the cervix area. And what I noticed right away was that as I put my attention there, something was pulling my attention up to my liver. And this happened repeatedly. And so I realized, okay, well, maybe the issue isn't really down there. That's where that the symptoms are manifesting, but probably there's something happening that really wants to be looked at in the liver. So then as I brought my attention to the liver, it wasn't very long until I got a memory from my childhood. And this occurred like 30 years prior. I was maybe 8 years old. And my sister and I were painting the fence around our pool in the backyard. And my mom had given us Varsol to clean the brushes. And somehow we thought that it would be a fun idea to paint our bodies with Varsol. And now this all came to me in a flash. So it wasn't like this happened and this happened. So when intuition comes through like this, it's just like it was all fully formed. And I'm just kind of describing it in a linear way, but that's not how it showed up. I just knew everything right away. So I could have this memory. I could feel the Varsol hitting my skin. I could feel it immediately getting to my liver. I saw my liver go into shock. Like, can you imagine, your whole skin surface has this chemical on it, which is highly volatile, and just right to the liver, which was like in total shock. And I realized, I could see that my liver was still in shock, and that one of the things I was going to have to work at was to help it to release the solvent. That was the reason why it wasn't detoxifying properly, and why other cells in my body weren't functioning properly. So that was part of it. And as I continued to visit with the symptom every day, I would get the name of certain practitioners at times. The naturopath that I ended up working with just kind of came to me. I knew of her, but I had never seen her before, but it was very persistent. And it turns out she was the perfect person for me to work with. She was fully supportive of wanting to heal in a spiritual way, of really wanting to focus on my emotional healing in order to affect my physical healing. So that was beautiful. And then also, just various things around just knowing, you got to stop heating your oils, Carolyn. Like, I used to cook and just fry onions and garlic and stuff like that. And something just said, this is going to be important for your liver and to heal in this way. And so I did that as best I could. And just different kind of insights were coming in. I felt called to doing a couple of juice fasts. I went to a silent retreat and I dedicated it to healing. I began to recognize through when I was sitting with the liver that the emotion that came up a lot for me was anger. And I knew that I had to look at this one. And it wasn't easy to do that because I didn't have a close relationship at all with my anger, although in retrospect, I see that it was this constant kind of level of irritation in my system. And so it took some work and some guidance and some help from outside people as well to help me to really begin to open towards this emotion that I was ashamed of, that I was afraid of, and to finally kind of give it some space to express. So all of this took place over many months, and the healing did happen. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm missing, but I just wanted to sort of portray for you how when you do drop into the body, the guidance, the healing, the insights will come. They'll come to you in ways that you don't expect. And it helps you to focus in on the important things for your healing. And it also, I believe, when you do go into the body, it gets to the root of all disease. Because, not only do our emotions cause contractions in the body that lead to physical stagnation and eventual disease, but also all of the things that we do that aren't health supportive, all the foods that we eat that aren't health supportive, or the activities that we do that aren't really elevating our body or our soul, if we look at those activities closely, and we could call them addictions, those are also, we do them in an effort to avoid feeling, right? An addiction is nothing else than something that I'm doing to avoid feeling for the moment. And again, there's no blame here, but what I'm saying is that what I find with my clients is that they find it very hard to find the motivation or the so-called discipline, but the soul is naturally disciplined, or the inspiration to do the things they need to do. And again, there, I always start with emotions, because I know that the soul is naturally inspired to care and to lead us to care for the body. And the choices that are soul and body supportive are actually joyful when they're coming from the soul. It's not a chore. It doesn't require external discipline. It's this natural outpouring. Of course, the body wants to be healthy and energized. Of course, the soul wants to live in a body that's got all the energy it needs to fulfill what it needs to. And so, again, no matter which way you look at it, the emotional realm and the energetic realm is really the one where I feel at this time in our evolution as humanity, we are needing to create more space around. And each one of us that creates more space around anger or sadness or whatever, or even joy or love, each one of us creates more space around that, enhances the capacity for the entire planet to liberate themselves from the emotions that separate us and that create suffering, and to create more space for the feelings and emotions that join us together and that create space for everyone to thrive. So I hope that little personal story, and probably I'm sure that as we go forward with these next 4 weeks, I'll be telling more stories from my own life, because I think it can be helpful. And also I will share some anonymous examples from my work with clients as well, because a lot of what I've learned has been through interaction with some very, very brave and beautiful souls who have come my way to help me to learn how to teach and how to transmit this information in such a way that it is direct and effective. So thank you so much for being here this evening, my friends. I will stay on once I say goodbye for any of you who have any questions, but essentially tomorrow I'll be sending you the link for this talk if you wanted to re-listen to it or share it with somebody. And I'll also be sending you a link to explore this 4-week course that will be starting next week. And I really hope that you can join us. Just know that if you do have to miss any of the classes, they will all be recorded. You'll get a home page and everything will be organized there for you to visit again and again. All right. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Bye now.